If I were to ask you what genre you think of when you think of Star Wars, you'd probably say something like space fantasy, space western, space opera, science fiction, something along those realms. But I don't think horror would take its chief place among them. Now, don't get me wrong. Horror has its place in Star Wars. Some of the most iconic moments are those stressful and suspenseful moments that leave you feeling with dread. The Dianoga in the trash compactor, the Wampa in the ice cave. My personal favorite, the cave on Dagobah, which is a lot more of a psychedelic horror. You even get stuff like a full episode in Bad Batch Season 2 that is a dedicated homage to the Alien franchise and one of my favorite episodes in the show. We can't forget about Ewok Hunt in Battlefront 2. That is a different type of horror in and of itself. But we've never gotten a project in Star Wars from the movies and the shows that fully devotes itself to the horror genre. But what if we did get a project that was centered around the horrific aspects of the greater galaxy? Well, some of the first examples are the Galaxy of Fear books that I saw littered across my library's bookshelves that instilled me with such curiosity and also that same dread. Even more recently, Star Wars Dark Legends by George Mann is one of my favorite canon examples of what Star Wars and horror combined can do. But I think the chief example of Star Wars and horror is Death Troopers by Joe Schreiber. Now, this book is Legends. However, it fits into canon pretty well. There's not anything in this book that's gonna immediately be like, oh, well, it's Legends, so it's not worth your time. As I was on the way to Rebel Scum Con this year, I wanted a palate cleanser. I wanted something to get me in the Star Wars mood, but something that was different from what I had experienced. The inspirations here mesh so well with Star Wars. Things like 28 Days Later, John Carpenter's The Thing, The Walking Dead, Alien, as I mentioned earlier, and of course, one of my personal favorites is the video game series Dead Space. It has all of those elements, but with that Star Wars flavor in it. And at first I thought it was gonna go maybe a little too far in some places, but I think it really struck the right balance of those horrifying aspects with the Star Wars fun and adventure. It's just showing a window into a different part of the Star Wars universe with still having that charm. In fact, there's some characters in here that show up that really gave some levity to the story. The Blackwing virus is one of the coolest elements of this book. The way the virus is presented, it gives you everything you need to know while still keeping you curious and on your toes. And I don't know if we'll ever see the Blackwing virus or this type of Death Troopers in Star Wars canon. I mean, we did get a little bit of the more magical, fantastical side of Death Troopers with Ahsoka Season 1, but this is a different type of biological horror, which, by the way, if you're an audiobook person, you cannot go wrong with this one. I read and listened to it at the same time, and it was so atmospheric. If you haven't gotten into Star Wars books and you want a good place to start and you love horror, pick up Death Troopers. It's a tight, compact, adrenaline-fueled rush that I loved from beginning to end. And like I said, it was a nice palate cleanser for someone who loves Star Wars but also loves horror. Have you read this book? If you have, let me know what you think. May the Force be with you, and your focus determines your reality.